We are at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, again, and thank you for joining us today for this Ask the Experts webinar. I'm Allison Phillips, Director of Marketing on Cox Media's corporate team, and I'll be hosting today's event. Some quick housekeeping items before I introduce today's guest expert. This presentation is being recorded. You'll receive an email with the recording so you can watch it again at your convenience or share it with your teams. We have about 20 minutes or so of some really great and exciting content for you, and 10 minutes or so set aside for Q&A. If at any time during the presentation you have a question, please type it into the question box on your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. So now that that's out of the way, I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest expert, Stephanie Needle. Stephanie is a Client Solutions Manager at Meta, the technology company that formerly conducted business under the name of their somewhat well-known brand, Facebook. Stephanie consults with clients on their Facebook marketing strategies, helping to align them with key business objectives. She's been with Facebook since 2014, and prior to that, she spent many years working on the agency side, developing digital media strategies and driving cross-channel innovation. On the weekends, you can find Stephanie shuttling her kids around to various events and enjoying the epic Atlanta weather. In her free time, she loves a good estate sale and CrossFit. For today's conversation, Stephanie's unique expertise will help us unpack the world of using Facebook to grow your business and provide a good foundation for building your brand on this powerhouse social media platform. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for such a great introduction, Allison. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here and having me. I am, like Allison said, a Client Solutions Manager at Meta, and I've been here for almost 8 years. And I'm really excited to share with you guys today how you can utilize our platform to help build your brand. So with that, I will just jump right into our content. So today's agenda, I'll talk a little bit about how Newsfeed works. I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper for you guys into what are the different elements of the Newsfeed and the posts that you and or people are posting across Newsfeed and how that works. And then go into social interactions. How can you create meaningful interactions with your audience that will help to ignite community and create an audience that will really build favorability and trust with your brand. And then from there, one of the biggest growth areas on our platforms, both Facebook and Instagram, have seen so much growth in the video consumption area. And so we are building formats that work well in the video space. And so those are the things that we really want to focus on and how you can do that well. And then, like Allison said, we'll save some time for Q&A as well. So first, I want to talk about Newsfeed and really demystify how some of the details around your content are really displayed. So your Newsfeed is primarily comprised of things that are shared connections, shared by your connections. From there, we look at each story and try to evaluate which one is the most meaningful to you as an individual. The algorithm is going to consider many different things in determining what to put in your feed. It actually considers hundreds of thousands of signals, little things like what time is it, what kind of phone you're on, what is the internet provider or connection that you're using. And the algorithm then uses all of those signals in order to predict how likely you are to engage with that post, which is one way that we'll determine that you'll find a post meaningful. Things like how likely are you to comment on the story, maybe how much time you're going to spend reading the story. Would you watch the video to completion if a video was posted? These are all qualitative predictors that are taken into consideration. And then we consolidate all of those signals into a relevancy score, a number that ultimately will represent how interested you will be in that story. And it's really just a best guess, but it's been shown to obviously work really well. And I want to talk more about an example. So let's say that Jonathan is a friend of yours. Maybe he's a really good friend of yours, and he posts a photo of himself. And so we're going to look at these connections with Jonathan in your feed. Other engagements, like the signals that we're getting from it, like who posted it. Jonathan, like I said, he's a really good friend. And there's all of these elements of how many reactions does it have. This one might have a lot of reactions. What are some of the other things, like is he a friend of yours? Is he a friend of mine? Is there negative elements? So these are all pieces of information that make predictions in order to ultimately calculate how likely you are to like or react to that story. And then we'll add these predictions into a number, which is our best guess of how meaningful you personally will find that story. But maybe you're friends with Jonathan too, and you have different interests than I do. So your score to that is going to look very different than my score. So it's ultimately how we're going to do this for every single story, for all the connections. Every time something pops up in your newsfeed, these are the thousands or hundreds of thousands that are of signals that are taken into consideration, and go through that process over and over again to see how interested you will be in the content that populates ultimately in your feed. And these are how we come up with newsfeed today. It's fundamentally how newsfeed works today. So you might be asking, why is this important to you? What does this mean for you as a brand? As you're looking to post organic or paid content across the Meta platforms, this type of information becomes extremely important to better understand the type of content that you might want to be posting as a brand. So thinking a little bit about the reactions and the meaningful interactions that you as a brand can have in the social environment. So like I said, for brands, it's important to understand how we're prioritizing meaningful interactions or meaningful social interactions, because time spent is not a goal by itself. On our platforms, we want the time people are spending across our surfaces to engage meaningful and positive time spent. So with people getting something out of it, we really want people to really be able to get a positive feeling, a positive interaction across our platforms. So for you, understanding people's wants and needs is one of the first steps in becoming more than just an advertiser to your audience. You want to become a trusted and favorable brand. So at Meta, we want people to connect and build stronger relationships on the platform. And as we discussed, we're actively prioritizing posts that spark conversations and inspire a meaningful interaction between people. So when we think about what content to post, I want to encourage you to think about what your audience might be getting out of the content, or what might get them to start talking and sharing a little bit more. What are people's needs that you can really tap into? So these are this is a little bit more about inspiring you on what you can kind of dig into a little bit with your content. And I want to spend a little bit of time highlighting some trends across our platform that may give you some ideas of how you can better connect with your audience in a way that feels more authentic to your brand. One of the first areas is the biggest shift that we're seeing coming out of the pandemic. It's a shift towards collectivism, a way to power your community. How can you really inspire your audience in a way that's authentic to your brand. So thinking about kind of creating community and really figuring out a way to show acts of kindness. The second area is more powerful brands have always been more than just a logo. They're more than just a product. They're having and offering a point of view in the world or in the marketplace. This is a really a big area of growth. And how do you drive impact for your community? How do you showcase leadership in a time of change like post-pandemic? This is a really important area of focus, and it's become more important than ever. Brands that are really showcasing leadership in this space and providing reassurance and building these true communities are really showing up well across our platforms. And then people are pushing our platforms and surprising us constantly with new ways of expressing and creating connections. So these last two buckets are really about how your brand can help discover and be inspirational. Consumers are looking to be entertained, celebrated, find ways to advocate for them and ways that they care about. So how can you build content that seamlessly creates ways to inspire and really engage your communities? Discovery is a huge area of opportunity across our platform. It's ultimately an opportunity for commerce. It's something that we've really coined discovery commerce across our platforms, because people are coming to the platforms to discover new things and really start to engage more in those areas. So as you think about meaningful interactions for your post, it's also really important to understand what people are trained to look at in newsfeed so that you can know how to be noticed. And there's been a lot of research that's been done to track where a user's eye goes first when they're looking at a post in ads or newsfeed. And this example here really showcases the importance of your core image or video. Because the image or video is the first interaction with your brand, it's extremely important that you make a good impression here. Really making sure to include your brand logo or some form of branding in this core video or image section, because ultimately, with number 2 and number 3 being the copy and the brand page name, we don't know how much time they're going to spend in feed, and so we don't want to rely on these pieces to relay that brand name or to really resonate what's going to be memorable for your audience, right? So really focusing in on that core image and video and making sure it's a really important element of your post and feed. And if we break the ad unit down a little bit more, we can talk about some best practices that are core to the platform. I don't want to spend a ton of time here because we can share, or you as a follow-up, or you can go look at ads guidelines to get some specifics, but a few quick call-outs. Video is a huge growth area for our platform, and we will talk a little bit more about this as well, but oftentimes people are watching in an environment where audio is turned off, like a waiting room, sports events, anything like that, where their audio is turned off. So it's really important that you're including captions or text overlay in your videos so that it's understandable with sound off. So it's a really key element there. And the second piece that I want to call out is really about text. As a general rule of thumb, I would say less is more. Knowing that video is a big part of our platform, think of that more in the specific to an image only. When it's text, less is more, because with video, text doesn't matter as much because it's not considered static on our platform. So keeping those few things in mind. And I really want to jump in a little bit more to talk about video, because this is a really great way to think about building connections with your audience. We're building products, like I said in the very beginning, for a way that people are consuming content, and this is a huge growth area across our platform. brands can think about our video products as a way to really enhance and match organic experiences as well. The onset of the pandemic served as a huge catalyst for the growth of online video. Recently, there was a study by Deloitte where it was published that the shift to digital was essentially a story of before and after. It's more about before and faster was the kind of the code of what they said. During COVID, digital video consumption quadrupled. So we saw 4 hours a day, and this is likely to last. It's not changing. 3/4 of consumers who are viewing online video content say they plan to maintain that watch time. So video is here to stay, and it's a really huge part of the consumption habits of consumers. This rapid rise of online viewing has ultimately increased the importance of digital video for brands and advertisers like yourself, especially when looking to connect with younger audiences. Advertisers are really starting to think of a TV plus social media or TV plus meta mindset for full growth potential. Over half of the time spent on Facebook and Instagram is watching video. So that's a huge opportunity for your brands to be discovered and truly start to add value and importance to both organic and paid media. And also just kind of reiterate the younger element as part of that broader shift. Younger audiences are increasingly embracing digital content. Between the ages of 18 and 35 in the US, they're 1.5 times more likely to watch a video made by a brand compared to some of the older audiences. So if you're thinking about trying to reach younger audiences, this is a huge growth area and opportunity for you. So although driving your marketing goals and creating connections is number one, it's also really important how and where you show up. You should, as a brand, be representing across all of our video experiences and really start to embrace the variety of the different ad formats that we offer to help build some of those connections. This quick visual that kind of played here on the left is really illustrating that you can take content that you have and use it across all of our video formats. So you're able to really utilize one piece of content and then fit it in within all the different formats. So what I really want to kind of hone in on before I close out and we have an opportunity to kind of do some Q&A is briefly touch on the diverse set of video formats across the different surfaces. And I know we kind of talked a little bit about it in the last slide, but each surface within our ecosystem offers a very different consumer experience. And I'm empathetic to the fact that we offer a lot of different video products and formats, but like I said before, you can take the same content that you have and make it work across formats. So you don't have to create unique videos or unique content for every single format, but utilizing the variety of video formats using the same content across all. The biggest distinction that we can really draw between these different experiences is that online video is a place where you can build deeper connections through in-stream, which is this placement that you see on the left side of the screen. In-stream is an opportunity to kind of have what you would really compare it to as like a mid-roll placement. And then there's social video experiences, which is on the right side of the screen, where people can really instantly be entertained in products like feeds, stories, and reels. These are all really great opportunities to have short form content that can really start to entertain your audience and build out a conversation with them. I also want to ensure we're also leaving time for the Q&A. So I'll close out by saying, as an advertiser, you can really create streamlined content that reaches people across all of these formats. but I would encourage you to start testing and learning what resonates through your organic experiences, and then increase that scale and reach with paid. They work well together and show the most value for, and ultimately you can show what works most with your brand by kind of testing and learning through those lenses. And that is the content that I have today. So I'll pass it over to Allison to see if we have questions for the Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Well, as a marketer on Cox Media's marketing team, I found that really helpful and interesting. Thank you, Stephanie. And yes, we do have a few minutes for some questions. We got a few questions from some of you when you registered for this session. So we'll start with those, but if you have a question you'd like to ask Stephanie, please go ahead and submit it through the question box on your screen. Okay, so first question that we had pre-submitted. We have a Facebook page that hosts an annual event. Because you can no longer easily share event posts to a page, what suggestions do you have on how to maximize event engagement?
Sure, that's a really good question. I would say 2 recommendations that I would start with. The first one would be utilizing your custom audiences. So custom audiences are audiences that you can port over using a web email and match those users. So anyone that's been to your event, it's a great opportunity to match those previous event goers onto the platform and utilize that as an audience to market to and market your event. So that's one like really strong recommendation. We know that those are really optimal audiences to go after. So that's one. And then the second piece would be we've seen that going live at an event, before an event, during an event, and just having really fun and engaging content works really well to help kind of create some fun like energy around the event and get people more excited. So whether it's maybe even posting content from last year's event and getting people excited about that as a call to action. There are a lot of great ways to use video as a way to really start getting people excited and want to ultimately sign up for the event.
I love that. We might have to start doing that to help promote these events. Can you share any insight or current best practices or strategies for when to allocate budget to boosted posts versus dedicated ads, and maybe even how to leverage both simultaneously for maximum impact?
Yeah, another good question. So I would think of it in 2 ways. A boosted post ultimately is taking a post and getting more engagement on that post. Boosting ultimately means like engagement, right? So it's going after people that will react to it, want to share it or comment on it. So all of those types of engagements. If you're putting paid media behind a post, you're able to go after true business outcomes. So when you're putting it through a paid lens in our system, like going through Ads Manager UI and setting up a campaign and creating an objective, those objectives go after those true business outcomes. And so if potentially maybe what you're actually going to try to drive is traffic to your website, and that's like the true KPI or the true goal, then utilizing Ads Manager and going through the UI allows you to actually go after people that will click and go to your website. So there's kind of a difference in how and what your true KPI or your goal is. So what I would recommend when thinking about that is thinking about what you're actually trying to do as a business or as a campaign. Is that campaign really meant to just drive energy and drive excitement and engagement? Or is there a different outcome that you're looking to drive? If it's traffic or purchases or leads, then utilizing the objective buying and a paid media campaign in that manner will be more beneficial.
Gotcha. Thank you. Is there a best time of day or time of week to post on Facebook to obtain maximum engagement?
So what I would recommend for this question is actually looking at your page insights. When you're looking at your page insights, you can actually kind of see if there's any types of ebbs and flows in the activity that's happening. So if engagements are happening more on the weekend or more on the weekdays, you can look at that data based on your page insights. But ultimately, when it comes to a paid campaign, if you're doing paid media, then I wouldn't pay as much attention to the time of day or week. I would look more from an organic perspective.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions, so they're going to keep coming. Thank you for answering these. What is the major benefit of Reels versus Stories? So this attendee said, I tend to create Reels and then share in Story. Is there a more effective way?
So to the latter part of the question, that's a great way. Honestly, I think I mentioned in the content like of the presentation, utilize your content across multiple formats. You know, it's not necessary, it's not a requirement to create unique content for every format. If you have content that's for stories, you can use it in Reels. If you have vice versa, those are vertical formats. They're usually viewed in a vertical format. So I would totally recommend using that content the same. I mean, I'm not adverse to saying if you have TikTok content, use it in stories and Reels. They all work together. And so I would definitely recommend kind of continuing to try to repurpose assets that you have that you're utilizing across the different platforms. We a tool in the Ads Manager UI that also has something called placement asset customization that would allow you to crop or do a lot of customized edits to your creative so that you could use one piece of content and customize it to the different formats.
Yeah, I think one of my key takeaways from that is video content. I think we can all acknowledge often takes more time and energy and resources in general to create. So make the most of it. Get as much out of it as you can.
Absolutely, yes. And you know, highly recommend testing video content if you're not already. It is a huge area of growth with consumers consuming a lot of time in video. And so there's so much opportunity for your brand to build a story that way. It gives you more time to talk about your brand and get your kind of brand story across.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. And I know there are many that we haven't gotten a chance to get to. So what we'll do is we'll capture all of those and we'll ask Stephanie to answer those offline for us, and we'll post them in an upcoming blog article. So be on the lookout for that. But this last question, Stephanie, if someone is using a post scheduling program like Hootsuite to post on all of their different social platforms at once, will Facebook push its value down and show it less because the same post is on maybe Twitter or other channels, or is that not the case?
I have to be honest, Allison, I don't know the answer to that because I'm only really well versed in the Ads Manager UI. I don't know enough about third-party platforms if you're using a third party to post or advertise with us on. So my best educated guess is no, it shouldn't impact the delivery, but I could definitely look into it and use that as a follow-up.
It'll be great. We'll include that in our follow-up blog post. Thank you guys. So again, that's all the time we have for today. As a quick reminder, a recording of this will be emailed to all of you, and we'll be back again later this year with another guest expert and more great content. So we hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, check out our blog for articles, ebooks, as well as recordings of some of our previous Ask the Experts webinars. And as always, for any additional questions regarding today's content, you can always reach out to your Cox Media consultant. If you're not a current customer, you can visit coxmedia.com to connect with one of our media experts. So thank you all again. We look forward to seeing you next time.